This is the OASIS News Organization. Oh no.
Welcome, Oh No's. This report will take you on the long journey of the curb lumber cabin experiment. And I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you how much it cost and what it ended up looking like. Right here, you got a truckload of curb lumber. Well, where do you get curb lumber? Well, I'll tell you where you get curb lumber. You don't get it at the lumber yard. You drive down the street, and sitting there on the curb is a bunch of old lumber, and you throw it in your truck. Thus the term curb lumber. You'll also come across curb furniture. Now, everything you see on my truck here is off of the curb. Chairs, patio heater, ice chest, gas grill, everything you could possibly need for your off-grid cabin or your on-grid cabin. It's all there, free for the taking. Before you can have a cabin in the woods, you gotta have some land. And I always wonder, where do people get this land? How can they afford it? What's it cost? Well, I'll tell you how I did it. I had a rich uncle who made a lot of money. He died and he left it to his wife. She didn't spend all the money. She was my mother's sister. She left a bunch to my mother, and my mother died, and she left a bunch to me. I just worked my ass off for this money. But that's the way it's been for thousands of years. You pass money down from one generation to the next. Well, I was a good-looking disco guy back in the day, wasn't I? All right, here we go. We're in front of the Oasis. That is a hardtop road. When you're looking for your land, what kind of roads you going to be driving on? Also, there was already a barbed wire fence and a gate. Nice things to have if you've never bought land before. At the end of this road, it's about a 30-second drive from my gate to the end there, and then I hit a state highway. Look around for what kind of roads you're going to be driving on. That's important. It also kind of increases the price. Let's take a quick look at the lay of the land here at the Oasis. 9 acres, cedar forest. You got to cut your way through if you want to walk anywhere. If you're going to build anywhere, you got to cut all this mess out. But this is right here is what sold me. That's about a 40-foot drop off down to that creek. I just love that. And on your land, you're going to have some spot that just sells you too. So I finally got around to picking out my place for the curb lumber cabin experiment. That's where I got started. At the top of the screen there is uphill, and to the right of the screen is uphill. So I've got 2 different angles I have to fiddle with, and that screwed with me through the whole build. So I laid down a bunch of 2x6s straight on the ground. I didn't care if they rotted or not. That's one thing with curb lumber. Since it's free, you just pile it up and go with it. These are sections of fence panels that I cut to size, trimmed them up with other fence wood, and that's going to be the floor. Well, it didn't take me too long to realize that with those floor sections made out of fence panels, there's nothing square on them. So it was going to be impossible for me to actually get it level. So I just had to go with my first oh no building code, and that was get it close. So I ended up making this 12 by 12 floor, and you can see on this picture here, what the hell was he doing? Well, I was trying to get it level, and I got close. Here's something else you need to have when you're building your cabin. Take time to have a workbench so you're not working on your knees. Caution, oh no's. When your buddies say, yeah, we'll come down and help you, don't expect much. Now with these old boys, they were heading on their way down to Austin to do a gig. They stopped off for a couple of days, and you know what? They wasn't worth a damn. But they did have some good weed. On to the walls, and my next crazy idea experiment with curb lumber. My plan was to make all the walls just like that. Now, can you tell what that is? Yes, they are single pieces of fence wood stacked one on top of the other, kind of like a log cabin. And I like the look, and I did it, but it's highly time consuming, so I got that high and I stopped with the idea. So I'm going to have to go with your standard stud wall. Now at the time, it was 2017, I was 65 years old, been smoking a pack of cigarettes every day since 1970. I'm not the healthiest old hippie running around Central Texas. So I decided that I couldn't lift a 12-foot wall of 2x4s. So I made 4 sections, 3 feet long, 8 feet tall. And I used 1x4s as a plate at the bottom and at the top. It worked for me. You know, I watched some of these guys. I've seen one guy, now he successfully did it, but he had a 30 foot wall of 2x4s that he lifted by himself. It can be done, but that's way too much of a struggle for an old cat like me. I mentioned, being plumb and level. Well, take a look here, and this is how far off I am. So I just stuck some fence wood in there to shore it up a little bit, and I went with it. I got close. When you're dealing with curb lumber, you gotta make some adjustments. And if you've never done it before, you just gotta go with the flow, folks. It doesn't have to be absolutely damn perfect. You know, that first cabin you build, it's not gonna last 100 years. On the floor, I had tar paper and some carpet pads that I put down first, vapor barrier. And then I put plywood down over that. And another one of my experiments was I didn't cut the plywood to size. I just lapped it over. So go along with the let's just get it close and save some time. That'll work for me, except, and this is a problem, all the dirt gets down in the crevices, and I'm not very good at sweeping. And that's something else I notice about living in the country. In the city, you walk on cement, asphalt, or maybe your front yard. Out in the country, you're walking on dirt all the time, and you're bringing a lot of that dirt into your cabin. One of the local dancers entertainers. The back door, I found that on the curb, pre-hung. Made it real simple for a knucklehead like me who's never hung a door before. On to the roof. Yes, I did have this in the budget. 2x4s, 16 feet long. Not 2x6s. I don't care what the code calls for. This is oh-no codes. I made all the walls 8 feet high, back walls 8 feet, front wall. I made 2 sections of pony wall there to put up on top. Let's see, dimensions 6 feet long and 2 feet high, which was really easy for this old cat to pick up and put up there. Well, you got to get up to the roof some way, and this is the way I did it. 2 ladders that I picked up off the curb, and I bought that scaffolding. I went to work up there on the roof. Now here, come on now. Here's where I did the same thing on the roof that I did on the floor. I just overlapped all the plywood. Now if I would have thought about it and taken the time, I could have just measured out a 12 by 12 area on the ground and then cut everything to size, but that takes some measuring tapes and cutting stuff, so I just came up with this plan and it worked pretty good for me. So I put down all the plywood, lapped it over. I gave it a coat of paint for, I don't know, some reason. I had free paint laying around. Put tar paper down, and then I put shingles over the top of all that. And you know what? That doesn't leak, even with the little imperfections. The walls. Well, things get screwy again. The plan was to put a bunch of plywood up around there, but I ran out of plywood, so I came up with the idea of Luan, which is 1/8 inch thick, comes in 4x8 sheets, and at the time it cost about $8. And Home Depot would cut it in half for free. So that's Luan up on top of those 2 white sections of plywood. Why the hell would you use Luan? This is why. I worked at a place, a professional photographer who shot magazine shoots for Sears and Pennies. And they use Luan for all their background. They painted them different colors for every shot. And they'd have 10, 15, 20, 30 coats of paint on them. And I knew how heavy they would be, and they'd be waterproof. And since I had them cut in half, they were only 4 feet by 4 feet, which again made it easy for me to work with. Now, you're not going to believe it, but I'm making this 4 years after I built this cabin. And there's some sections of Luan with 1 coat of paint on them, and they're still just fine. A little frayed on the edges. I should have put another coat of paint on there, but I didn't get around to it. Now this is what I really wanted the cabin to look like, with fence wood for the exterior. And oh Lord, what's he done now? All right, Luan won't really hold screws, so I had to take the little bit of plywood I had left, screwed it onto the studs, and then when I ran the fence wood across there, the fence wood would screw into the plywood. Off-grid innovation, or the way a knucklehead builds a cabin. Front doors. Now I wanted double doors on the front because this was going to be a temporary shelter while I was building ONO's World Headquarters Entertainment and Rehab Center. And then the cabin would end up being a shop, and I wanted a big opening to be able to move big stuff in and out. So I used a couple of interior doors because they're real easy to find when you're junking. And I hung them on there, and I didn't do it right, but they open, they close, they stay closed if you tie a rope around the door handle. And that's what I went with. Voila! All right, Odos. Now we're going to talk some numbers here and cost. And I'm going to compare. What I did was that I got online with the old Home Depot and I looked up 3 kits of theirs, which were 12 by 12, same size as the curb lumber cabin, and see how much they cost. And I was quite surprised at how much they did cost. And I tried to pull, low to high, trying to be fair. And this is what I came up with. The next comparison is I looked up 3 different companies that built sheds and delivered them. All of them, same thing, 12 by 12, free delivery. And I wanted to see what they cost. And this is what I came up with. All of these sheds may appear to be different sizes, but I think that was just because of illustration purposes. So I've got the cost of the kits, but I wanted to know the square footage cost. And there you have it, $33, $24, and $42 a square foot. Next, we have the cost of the delivered sheds, and their cost is much lower. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I really tried to figure out Home Depot, but hell, those are the numbers I came up with. And then last, we have the cost of the curb lumber cabin. And here you see them all. If it says 0, that means it was curb lumber. And I used more than 22 by 4s, but the rest of the 2 by 4s were curb lumber. I had paint sitting in the garage, free paint. Eric and Beebe know the answer. They're smiling about it. $523 total cost, and it rings up to $3.63 a square foot. Oh, hell yeah. Compare the 3 averages. All right, $33.40, $23.01. What? $3.63. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to do. It's up to you if you want to go the curb lumber style. It takes time to appropriate all the materials. I suggest you as you get the materials, you build. And if you don't know how to use a tape measure or a drill or a skill saw, then you probably shouldn't try building something yourself. But on the other hand, if you're a little DIY man or woman who's built a few things around your house, you can do it. Because when I look at this thing, all I see are rectangles and squares. If you can build a square, you can build a wall, you can build a floor, you can build a roof. Now y'all have seen how screwy I've built stuff. It has lasted 4 years, and it's not any more crooked than it was when it started. But I'm going to quote a guy from, name of the channel is Bush Radical. He says here, I'm not building a piano. I like the way I do it better than the way you don't do it. So don't say I can't do it. Now, he is a skilled carpenter. He's built, 4 cabins. Well, I've built 1 cabin. And after 4 years, it's still standing. I've got heat, I've got air conditioning. One thing I didn't show is my outdoor toilet, which is really just a portable toilet seat that I set up out in the woods and do my business and cover it up. If it's raining or too cold, I pull the seat into the cabin and do my business in a bag. But there's always a way to do it. And if having a place in the country or living off grid or wanting to homestead, take the action and do it, and you'll really enjoy it. At least I have. Now, I have made myself a few notes here that I have forgotten about, that you may have some questions. These first things, I would not consider them a cost to build the cabin, but to make it livable, they are costs. Air conditioner, $150. Fireplace with the chimney, $500. Solar kit with inverter, $500. I already had batteries. For some reason, I bought 2 scaffolds. I spent $300 for the 2 of them. And the Honda generator to run the air conditioner, $1,000. That comes to $2,450. Also, my front porch, which is about 10 by 12, and the back porch, which is 14 by 14, both of those were 100% free. Tools I use, and I am not a skilled carpenter, as you saw, but I've got a clue. Tools I use, they were all Ryobi cordless tools, and I charged them off of my truck. I had 2 chargers. So I had a drill, a reciprocated saw, bench saw, and circular saw. All cordless. Charged them up off the truck, and I never had a dead battery on my truck. So that's it. I've given you all the knowledge and experience possible from the OASIS in Peacox County, Texas. Voila!
Remember, oh no, world peace begins at home.